Hi, I'm Kay Johnson, and I'm a co-host of Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers with my friend Elizabeth Nelson. And it's been a while. It seems like forever since we've done this.
It got a little busier on the holidays, so we did miss a month.
Between trimming the tree and cutting the prime rib, did you have time to read?
Lots of audiobooks.
Ah.
And some regular ones too, yeah.
So what have you been reading?
Since we're talking about Christmas, I did read quite a few Christmas books. The one that really stood out to me Christmas-wise, it's a little after the season since we're in January, but this one I think could be read really anytime. It's called The 13th Gift, A True Story of a Christmas Miracle, and it's by Joanne Huist, Huist Smith. So I think it's Houst or something like that, middle name. But this is the story about a family that it's a year ago right around Christmas time, the father passed away.
Oh.
And so they've all just sort of given up on Christmas, and there's not really any, they're in the aftermath of a sudden passing away of a family member. So right before Christmas, 12 days before Christmas, somebody starts leaving presents outside their house with notes on them that say, like, on the first day of Christmas, your true friends give to you, and then they'll leave like either a wreath or wrapping paper, and so it's sort of how this mysterious person leaving these gifts brings the family back together and brings Christmas and helps them sort of move on from this grief.
Is it good?
Very good, very touching, and it's the true story written by the author, and it's read by the author. So, and I did listen to this as an audiobook, but I really enjoyed it, and you just kind of have those heartfelt moments where you get kind of teary-eyed, but you laugh along, and so it was just like a perfect little Christmas feel-good story for me. So I really enjoyed that one, and I also read the Christmas Cocoa Murder.
Ah, okay.
Which is, it takes place in Ireland, and I have an Ireland obsession, which you know about since I've been very little, but the main character, they're going to have a Christmas program in the park, and Santa comes rolling out dead in a giant dunk tank full of hot chocolate.
Well, there you go.
So this is more of your cozy mystery type. It was this one was actually in with a pack with two other Christmas books that I really enjoyed too, but this one was interesting just because it's they're trying to figure out who did it, and there's competing towns with competing Santas, and so it was enjoyable. But the 13th Gift one I really did like that one, which was the big one for Christmas reading. But what have you been up to?
Well, I stumbled on a new author that I'm rather taken with. Her name is Ellery Adams, and the book I came across was The Secret Book and Scone Society.
Okay.
And it's a series, of course, and there's 3 books out, and the third one is coming out shortly, sometime this early winter, I think. And you can get them at the library.
Okay.
But the author is Ellery Adams, and the books take place in Miracle Springs, North Carolina. They're mysteries.
Okay.
And a group of women, one gal runs the Miracle Books, another gal runs a gingerbread house bakery, then there's a couple others, and they come together kind of randomly when a murder takes place.
Okay.
And anyway, what makes it interesting is each of these women has a gift.
Okay.
And the woman who owns a Miracle...
supernatural gift?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sort of some sort. But the Miracle Books, for instance, that gal can visit with you, and then she'll give you sell you a stack of books that give you insight into what you're doing. And the woman who runs a gingerbread house bakery makes scones and has a way of mixing things in that she feels you need.
Oh, okay.
And so this first book, a man was in town, and he somehow visited with these different women and ends up murdered. And they feel obligated to solve it because they all sort of came in contact with him and they knew he was troubled. And so they were all set to help him. So the second book is called The Whispered Word, and the third one is The Book of Candlelight. But they're interesting. The characters are interesting because they're not like beautiful, glamorous people. They've all had issues. And the first book, they share their secrets. And it's interesting that how they learn to trust each other, and that's what makes the book interesting. The murder in and of itself is okay, but it's all this interplay between the characters. And so I actually was like, wow, a good book. But what was also interesting, and which I have not investigated yet, but this Ellery Adams has written the Book Retreat Mysteries, the Charm Pie Shop Mysteries, the Bay Mysteries, Hope Street Church Mysteries, Collectible Mysteries, the Supper Club Mysteries, and she managed to write 2 cookbooks. So that's like maybe 50 books. So I was thinking that it looks like I potentially have a lot of things to read.
Not that you ever have a shortage of anything to read.
No. But
we're being honest.
Yeah, that's true. I always have a few in this. I actually have, though, the Whispered Word, the second book in the series, on the front seat of my car.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was able to order it from the library.
Oh, good.
Because the first book I got free on Kindle Unlimited. And, of course, I liked it, so I wanted the second one, and that one I was going to have to pay for, and it wasn't cheap either. It was
$14.99?
like $13.99, $12.99, something. I thought, and then I went on the Pioneerland Library website, and I ordered, and there it was, and it was like, yes. So I quickly ordered it, and was willing to wait without having to pay for it.
Well, good.
And so I'll order the third one when that one comes out, too.
Nice.
So Ellery Queen and the Secret Book and Scone Society. And stuff. I also fell back on on my favorite Agatha Christie. You know, people always think of her as writing about Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. But she also has 2 other characters. One is Mr. Harley Quinn, and the other one is Parker Pine. And I think it's just atrocious that she didn't write many books on these 2 characters. She had 1 book on each.
Well, see, you say Harley Quinn, and I go to Batman, so I'm in the wrong wheelhouse there.
It's an interesting. He's a guy who there's a guy in Agatha Christie books called Mr. Satterwaith. And he's sort of a little man, never married, fussy fellow, lots of money, and tends to show up at wealthy people's homes, you know, weekend parties in England, that type of thing. And anyway, he met Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn's sort of a catalyst to solving a situation. And then Mr. Satterwaith, who always spent his life kind of watching, steps up with Harley Quinn's around. So they're very good. And then Parker Pine was a statistician his whole life. And when he retired, he decided that he could use all these statistics to solve people's problems. And so he does a whole book of, you know, lost loves and all sorts of things. But one is The Mysterious Mr. Quinn, and the other is Parker Pine Investigates. Both of those are by Agatha Christie, and they're both very good. I think most of the Harley Quinn ones were written as magazine stories. And then compiled into a book at some point, probably between her 10,000 other books. But so if you're looking for something new with Agatha Christie, Mysterious Mr. Quinn and Parker Pine Investigates. So how about, what else is on your list?
I always dabble into nonfiction, and I found a book called Codename Lise, and it's the true story of the woman who became the World War II's most highly decorated spy. So this one's by Larry Loftus, and it tells the story of, am I going to be able to find her real name here? Odette Sanson. And she is a French native who married a Brit, and so she had dual citizenship. And when World War II starts, someone had reached out from the government asking for pictures of like Normandy area and all that when they started planning different things. And so she submitted her family trip photos from when they went on vacation, and then said that she knew the area well, so if they had any questions to let her know. And they recruited her to be a spy for the SOE.
Ooh.
So it follows her kind of going through her training, and it was interesting to me because I think that this lady probably greatly influenced the Maggie Hope series.
Okay.
By Susan McNeil, because everything, like the training that she went through and everything they talked about what she did is what Maggie Hope does in this book series, kind of going through the training and where she all was, and some of the people kind of match up. So it was interesting that way. And then it goes through when she gets to France, how she gets there, meeting her sort of group that she's involved with. And then she was caught by the Nazis and did wind up in a concentration camp. So it follows all of that. Did she survive? She did. Yep, she survived, and she was. I don't remember which medal she received, but she received some kind of award after World War II, and she was the only woman to receive the award, and she was also the first one that received the award at this ceremony with all these other men. They moved her up to the front, and they talk about at the end everything she did after the war too, and then how it all turned out. But it's really good. I will tell people that parts of the book are not for the faint-of-hearted because she was held by the Gestapo, and they don't gloss over some of those parts. So I kept my feet kind of curled under me for a while after I read a certain chapter. So it is, and it was a terrible time. They're talking about all the different things that happened at some of the concentration camps, some of the things that she witnessed or could hear, and so it's not, if you get triggered by that sort of stuff, might not be the book for you, but it is a very honest telling of World War II and her story, and I found that really interesting because, like I said, I saw a lot of Maggie Hope in her, in this character, and so that's a fictional character that, I had to kind of smile to myself because everything that this woman was doing, that's what this book character was doing, so it was like, wow, it really happened, it's a real person that actually did all this made-up stuff that this other character's doing, but, it's fun to learn about that.
With you talking about World War II, it makes me think of, for fans of Erik Larson.
Yes.
Mark February 25th on your calendar because he has a new book coming out. The Splendid and the Vile, a saga of Churchill, family, and defiance during the Blitz.
Okay.
And it's interesting because if you saw the movie Darkest Hour, did you ever see that with Gary Oldman? And he won an Academy for his portrayal of Churchill. But that starts out with Churchill stepping up as prime minister. And if you remember at that time, Hitler just had invaded Holland and Belgium. Poland, Czechoslovakia had fallen. Dunkirk evacuation was on the horizon. Yeah. So it was really England's darkest hour. And so Erik Larson revisits that story. Okay. And he tells it through the day-to-day experiences of the Churchill and his family. Okay. As they live through these things. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a really great book. I love Erik Larson books. And so I am super excited about this one because he wrote, his last World War II book was The Beast in the Garden. In the Garden of the Beast, which is actually right here. Yeah, right. Yeah. And so that was really interesting because that was about the American ambassador living in Berlin as the Nazis took over. Yeah. So that's good. So this one is about the Blitz. Okay. And so I think it's going to be really, really good. So February 25th is when that comes out. So I'm super excited about that. I'll have to add that on my Goodreads. I'm not going to do it now because it would stop the flow of the show. And nobody wants to watch me put anything in my phone for that amount of time. Well, and talking about true books, when we were sitting here, I noticed that she had this one in her pile. And if you have not read The Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt, you must read the book. Because I read this literally when it came out. There was a review in the New Yorker magazine. And I thought, oh, it sounds kind of interesting, so I got it and read it. And that was before it took off and sold zillion copies and stuff. But I actually have this statue sitting on a table because I have gone to Savannah. I have gone to the mothership and walked this book. And it's a story about a guy from New York who wants to live somewhere else, right? Or he's looking for a weekend place.
Yeah, he goes to, I can't remember why he goes there, but he goes there and meets some very interesting.
Yeah, but you know what's really interesting about this book is after visiting Savannah, I had lost my wallet in Savannah and found it. Some firemen found it and turned it in. And so I wrote a letter to the newspaper, the letter to the editor thanking them. And somehow I hooked up via email with one of the detectives.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I have never heard this story, Kay.
Well, this is so cool. And anyway, this book is actually, as much as it's about Savannah, it's also about a murder that took place in Savannah. And there's a movie named after this book, with directed by Clint Eastwood.
John Cusack, Kevin
Spacey's
in it. Jude Law is the
yeah
younger guy. We're just going to leave it at that. Otherwise, we'll spoil everything.
Yeah. and anyway, it's Jim. The fellow who gets killed, anyway.
Does it say on the back?
Or not killed, he dies, but he's the one on trial for murder because his lover Danny.
Jim Williams?
Yeah, Jim Williams, and
Danny
he shoots his
Hansford.
lover Danny, and the police take him away, and he has 5 trials. And this is true. I mean, this is all true. And anyway, one of the detectives who was there that night told me, he said he was guilty from the word go.
Yeah. And he was sort of a strange man to begin with.
Bon
because
vivant.
They were going to be filming some sort of a Civil War movie in the square in front of his home, and he didn't want them to film there. So the man hung a giant Nazi flag from his balcony.
It ruined the shoot. Yeah, and in fact, when we were in Savannah, his sister came out of the house and did something on the sign like "we're closed now," and went back in. And I remember saying to my mom, "My God, that's Jim Williams' sister." But it's an interesting book.
Yeah, but I like the parts where they talk about the different groups in Savannah. Like you have with Jim Williams, you have every year he has a party, but the same people aren't invited every year. It's
right.
A rotating
So
thing.
Some people fall off the list for whatever reason.
Or you have the ladies, the bridge club.
I love the bridge club.
They line up outside of the house, and at exactly a certain time they're allowed to go in. They play for so long, they eat, they play again, and they all leave.
They drink. These people drink a lot in Savannah.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think it's really interesting, and that's one of the reasons I remember Mom reading this. I think she was reading it when we went to Disney World, because I can remember her sitting by the pool reading it while Becca and I swam.
The thing that's interesting about the book is that you don't really think where you live is all that interesting. And yet, if you really think about Hutchinson, for instance, there's probably all sorts of great characters that could be written about in a book like this.
Yeah.
And Savannah has the luxury of history and fabulous beauty. You guys went to Savannah, right?
Yeah.
And those wonderful squares with the hanging moss and...
Yeah. But I do have to say, I liked this a lot better than I liked the movie. I didn't really enjoy the movie at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
obviously we differ here, but I didn't like the movie. So.
Well, I think the movie.
There's a documentary I've seen about.
The documentary is really good. That's an A&E documentary.
That's really good.
I've got that too.
I'm sure you did. That doesn't surprise me at all.
But the movie's okay, but I think the book is best. Not surprising about that.
It's true.
But the thing that's interesting about Savannah, though, is that everyone recognizes all the strange behavior, and it's just completely okay. I mean, it's just sort of interesting. Especially, who was that guy with the flies? He's the one who would eat at that restaurant.
I don't remember him.
Oh. Well, he had something about yeah, they always kept an eye on him because they weren't ever sure if he was going to, put something in the water supply or...
Yeah, I don't remember. It's been a while since I read it, but it always hangs out on the shelf.
This one we highly recommend.
Yes.
If you have not read it, check it out from the library and read it, or listen to the audiobook. If you have read it, dig it out, because I read it every couple of years because it's just interesting. And I might steal this book from Betsy and read it in the very near future.
I'll consider it.
There you go. There you go.
I finished this one finally. I know I've talked about it, that I was going to be starting it, and it took me a while to get through it because, as we can see, a bit of a doorstop. I think it's 700 and some pages.
My God.
Which there's also an excerpt from book 3 and then a discussion guide in the back. Not a book club discussion, but a discussion group. And there's also, we were talking about it beforehand, extension activities.
There we go. What is an extension
Let's
activity?
see. Freud plays an important role helping Mary and the others rescue Lucinda. Research Freud, his theories, his methods, and any controversy surrounding his work, and report back to the group what you've learned. Well, that just sounds enjoyable. I'm going to skip that part.
That sounds like way too much work.
It does.
It's like I should get college credit for that.
I know. But so I've talked about this before. I actually have the first one here too. This is the Athena Club series. The first book is called The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. And then the one I just read is European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman. So this is about, it's a club of women made up of, well, they're all different from literary backgrounds, but it takes place as that it's they're real people in London. So you have Mary Jekyll, you have the daughters of Jekyll and Hyde, the daughter of Dr. Rappaccini, who is Italian, Dr. Moreau, Dr. Frankenstein, and now introducing with this book you add Dr. Van Helsing.
Do we think there's too many doctors in this?
Well, there's also Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, so and Irene Adler. So I mean, it's everybody is hooked up in here, and there's also right at the end there's another doctor who's introduced into this, but so I mean, it's sort of these supernatural girls that have all banded together and now live together, who are trying to stop this society that created these experiments and are the reason that they all exist. So they're going against this to fix it. And so in this one, they're trying to save Dr. Van Helsing's daughter, who he's turning into a vampire.
Dr. Helsing?
Dr. Van Helsing is turning his daughter into a vampire. Yes, I know.
Okay. So
and Dracula may or may not show up in here too in Budapest.
So my question to you is, are they standalones, or do you read them in order?
You would read them in order, and it's really actually kind of funny because throughout the book there are spots. I'll find one. I'll show you. So like through here, there's dialogue. And so this is all the girls that are talking about what they're currently writing and disagreeing with the one girl who's writing it and saying, well, I don't think you should do this, or, you know, we've totally overlooked this part. And so at one point in here, throughout, she's always saying, like, and if you want to know more about our previous adventures, you can purchase The Alchemist's Daughter at your local store for so many shillings. So they're trying to sell these books to make money. And so they're constantly talking about the fact there are other books that you should read. So, but I mean, they're really good. I really enjoy them as much as it looks like 700 pages flew by, even though sometimes I've told you I felt like someone would sneak in and add a few more pages from behind on me. But I really enjoyed it, and actually on Instagram I'd posted a picture that I was reading it, and because I could, I tagged the author in it, and she liked my picture, and I sort of died a little inside because I fangirled big time, and I think I emailed you and I told Tom, and Tom's like, okay, and I said, no, seriously. I'm like, this is like one of your big like sports people liking what you do. So he's like, oh, okay, but
light came on?
I guess. But so this one I really loved, and I mean, these will go on my shelf and I'll read them again. I've had people that have asked to borrow them, and I said no because I'm afraid they won't come back.
Well, that's true there.
And I don't do that with a lot. A lot of them I'll lend out, but these ones I'm keeping, and I will recommend them to Barnes & Noble or Amazon to purchase their own copies, or to the Will Library.
Yep, that's true.
But that's all the time we have.
Really?
So yeah, we're going to have to wrap it up for the week. And if you want to reach out on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email at offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com and let us know what you've read to finish up the year. And we'll see you next time.